We live in a time where anyone can look rich. Buy now, pay later schemes, consumer debt, social media flex culture, they all build this hallucination of a group of people who make it appear like they've got everything. But if you peel back the curtain, you realize that there's this massive problem. Debt spiraling out of control, financial anxiety, and this big epidemic of people who have lost their self worth simply because they were pretending to be someone that they're not. In this video, we break down the fake rich lifestyle and the problem that it poses for Filipinos and why you should avoid it like the plague. And I teach you a strategy, a different strategy that will help you to build boring but real wealth over time. So without further ado, let's get into the board. My hope is after watching this video, you realize just how much of a sham this entire idea of a fake rich lifestyle actually is, right? And show you a different alternative, which is to live within your means or below your means and still be fulfilled and overjoyed. Yes, it's actually possible. And I actually argue that if you take this kind of approach, that it's actually going to make you way, way happier than pretending like you've got it all, right? So for those of you who are landing on this channel for the first time, my name is Patrick Mobilog. My friends call me Kiko. I'm an entrepreneur, an investor, a Lord of the Rings fan, and this is my entire story. You can pause and read, and if you've done that already, then let's continue. There's a very high chance that you've landed on some piece of content from someone that you know or someone maybe that you've heard of, know of, where that person is flashing a certain level of lifestyle. They show off expensive brands, they show off really lavish vacations in different parts of the world. And then later on, you find out that that person actually doesn't have the kind of wealth or money that they make it appear like they have. And this became really popular when more and more people started taking this strategy to start a business, right? And we call it the fake it till you make it kind of strategy, where you present a certain lifestyle, you show yourself driving sports cars, you show yourself going on vacations to exclusive villas and in different parts of the world outside of the country because of this business I'm in. But then you later find out that these people are borrowing the cars or just posing for pictures when it's not actually their car, or they actually had to rack up a big amount of credit card debt just to buy those certain items. And this all goes to this idea of lifestyle inflation, which is now becoming a bigger epidemic from a financial standpoint, because a lot of people are starting to build on this fake it till you make it strategy, thinking that by making themselves look like they're richer than they actually are, that more people will find them credible, that more people will start to admire the lifestyle that they have. But then they later on have this big problem because it just creates this whole illusion of a person that is nowhere close to what they actually portray on social media. And so lifestyle inflation, the reason why this happens is probably one of three other different things. Number one is it can also stem from this deserve ko to kind of thinking. And we see this a lot with people who get a higher salary and they think all of a sudden, oh wow, because I have a higher salary, now I have all the money in the world that I can spend on shopping, I can buy shoes that I want, I can treat myself to food that I want. And again, there's nothing wrong with treating yourself, right? But sometimes the problem with this kind of thinking is we start to lose control and lose track of the kind of lifestyle that we are now starting to build. This becomes a bigger problem when we start buying certain things on consumer debt. We buy a car that we can't afford, and so all of a sudden the monthly payments become more of a burden than a blessing to you. Or you start to buy certain items and then put them into this installment plan, where all of a sudden now you have 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 pesos worth of credit card debt that you have to pay for, and you don't fully own those items yet. The other reason why lifestyle inflation happens is because of this social validation trap. We see on social media all of our peers and our friends living a certain lifestyle, and we think that I have to have the same kind of lifestyle too, because if not, then I'm going to get left behind. All of my peers, all of my batchmates before in high school, they all have houses, and so now I need to have a house. They all have these kinds of cars, and so I have to have this kind of car. They're all going to Hong Kong, they're all going to Singapore, and so I have to fly to Hong Kong and to Singapore. And again, all of those things are great, but the problem is when you start using money that you don't have just so that you can feel like you're socially validated, that you're not getting left behind. And then the third trap that causes lifestyle inflation is this whole identity wilderness. This problem that we see now of people who have no idea who they actually are. And so they get into all of these trends. Pickleball, again, nothing wrong with that, right? But then you buy all of these gear just simply because everyone's playing pickleball. Now I have to play pickleball and I have to buy the shoes, I have to buy the expensive paddles. I find that a lot of people who fall into lifestyle inflation do so simply because they don't really know what they want. And so if you don't know what you want, you end up spending money on things that you don't really want just so that you can make people that you don't actually like happy. And so lifestyle inflation, this is really a big problem. How do you overcome this entire fake rich lifestyle problem? It really falls on something really boring, and it really goes back to this idea of money management. Many times when people come to me with financial issues and they come to me with coaching needs, right, the first thing that I usually see is that there's a lack of a system in place. I don't think anyone's ever woken up and said, I'm going to spend more than I want and I'm going to ruin my financial life so I can give myself financial stress. That's not how it works. Usually what happens is that money leaks start to come into our life simply because we don't have a system to track our money. And so I make this case that money management and having a system for your finances is really the first step for you to start using your money to give yourself a better life without digging a hole, digging a grave for yourself from a financial standpoint. So how do you manage your finances then? Let's say, for example, you make about 100,000 pesos a month, right? And that's a lot of money. If you make six figures in the Philippines, again, I mean, is it life changing money? Probably not, but it's going to be comfortable. But I speak to a lot of people who make this kind of money, but at the end of the month, they still feel poor. Why? Because the problem isn't that they're not making enough. The problem is that they're not putting it in the right places. And many times when I coach people and I coach couples and individuals, when it comes to their money, these are the four buckets that I see the most common that really build more fulfillment in our life. The first one is having a bucket for your giving. If you want to feel rich, you want to become as generous as possible. But you also have to have the right boundaries. And that means, first and foremost, setting an amount of money that you can give every single month at a level where, yes, you are going to be able to be a blessing to other people, but it doesn't completely drain you. So that's the first bucket. The second bucket is your growth bucket. Because at the end of the day, you want to continue to progress. If you want to feel rich, if you want to feel wealthy, then you need to invest in certain things that give you more growth. And that could include trainings, developing your skills, and can also mean putting money into certain assets that will give you more freedom in the future. So investing in stocks, investing in real estate, and so on and so forth. So if you're looking at 100,000 pesos per month in income, that gives you about 10,000 pesos a month. If you invest all of that into money markets, for example, then at the end of 1 year, you will have 120,000 pesos invested in stocks, ETFs, and growth and global funds. And I have a lot of content about investment that can show you that if you put in 10,000 pesos per month over a period of many years, it can lead to millions, if not tens of millions of pesos in net assets by the time that you retire. The third bucket is you also want to put in money for your basics because at the end of the day, bills are real. You have to spend for utilities. You have to buy food and rent and buying a property if you want to invest in real estate. And so the final bucket now, number four, is now you can start thinking about your wants. And if you look at this example, once again, this is just an example, right? I'm not saying that this has to be the breakdown or the percentage, but you have to have a bucket where you do cover the things that do give you a bit of guilty pleasure joy, right? You can spend this on eating out. You can put this aside as a travel fund. But like everything basically that I'm really pointing at is simply this, that you want the wants to be the last bucket that you kind of cover, because other three buckets that you see, giving, growth, and basics, are actually the things that will give you more joy and happiness than kind of like having your sense of guilty pleasures here and there, right? But you do still want to have a certain amount of money set aside for other things that could give you a sense of leisure and pleasure. So the first part is having a money management system that can clarify for you where your money should go. But that's not enough, because the next thing that you want to do is you want to have a level of clarity in your life. And the best way for you to build that kind of clarity is asking yourself this question: what's your definition of rich? And this whole concept really became more popular because of a guy named Ramit Sethi, who teaches about the importance of living a rich life. But a rich life, he argues, will be completely different for every single one of us. And this is where it gets really tricky. Because for you to define what a rich life looks like for you need to understand yourself. And this is the area where a lot of people really struggle with. Because the truth of the matter is, they don't really have a clear understanding of what they really want. Ramit Sethi also talks about this other concept called money dials. And this finance philosophy talks about these dials that represent the specific areas in your life where you choose to spend extravagantly while aggressively cutting costs in the other areas of your life where it doesn't really give you as much joy. And so, like I said right earlier, many of the things that really bring a lot of joy for me really goes back to family, especially spending time with these two kids and of course my wife. But like more specifically, kind of like just land on a story here. My family and I traveled to Iloilo City to kind of like spend the remaining week of our kids' summer vacation, just kind of like chilling and like having space to do nothing. And so during that time, my decision was that I would make as much time as I could to spend uninterrupted time with my daughters, Sam and Alexa, right? Because these are the moments that really make me feel rich when I'm with my children, when I'm spending time with my family. And so that's what gives me a sense of joy and happiness and fulfillment. So money spent on family, and especially money spent on my children, don't feel like a waste of money. And so that's my sense of joy. That's what I value. And that's very clear for me. The question I want to ask you is simply this, right? Are you clear about what kind of spending brings the most amount of fulfillment, joy, and happiness for you that will make you feel like you're the richest person on earth? Because if you're clear about that, then you will probably not spend as much money anymore, because you realize that a whole lot of the spending that you might really right now that you might have in your budget are really things that don't bring the kind of fulfillment that you thought. And so getting clear with your values, getting clear about what your definition of rich is, could be the key for you to unlock true fulfillment and happiness while managing your money in a way where you don't have to inflate your lifestyle to make yourself appear like someone that you're not. Hopefully, all of those insights and thoughts, kind of just like ramblings, can give you more clarity into how you can use your money to not just, avoid becoming the fake rich kind of people, but to put your money into certain areas in your life that will bring you the most amount of happiness and joy. And as always, if you found this video helpful, then click subscribe or share this with a friend that you think can really learn something from this video. And that's it for today's rambling, and I'll see you in the next one.